Thank you, Attorney General, for those thoughtful words. I want to do two things. I want to introduce you to where the Inspector General's office fits into this very important team effort, and then step back a little bit. You've heard a lot of very granular, highly accurate details about how this work is done. But before I do that, I want to talk about Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz for a couple of sentences. These are two gentlemen who have decided to spend their lives improving American health care. That's what they care about. That's their heart. I think Dr. Oz probably spent 10 years learning to transplant hearts. And they're still doing that work. That work continues to go on. We're continuing to improve health care, access to health care, new technologies, new inventions. But this fraud has been an interruption to that effort. So Dr. Oz and the Secretary now have two jobs: improve American health care for everyone and fight fraud. So we want to emphasize that work is close to our hearts and very important. Now, the Inspector General's office is little known to most people, and I'll just give you a few fun facts if I could. We have about 1,450 employees. 100 of those employees do data analytics. 6 million transactions a day go through Health and Human Services. Somebody has to look at those and write programs using types of AI that I don't know anything about and find out where the anomalies are. So when somebody's billing for more hours than are possible, that might first appear in a database at the state level or at the federal level. They catch that, they move it over to the investigators, of which we have over 400. They start a case. They include the FBI, IRS, Homeland Security, and our other partners, and investigate the case. We also have people that do audits of these programs. We figured out in advance that something was amiss in a lot of the autism programs in many states. That comes back, and again, it goes to the investigators. Data analytics goes to work, and you find out that there couldn't possibly be that many children in these autism programs. As you may remember, in one state, Minnesota, they had $1 million spent on autism services for children, and 5 years later they were spending $343 million, a statistic that we don't get tired of repeating. So the Inspector General has the ability to send out subpoenas, do data analytics, do old-fashioned shoe leather work, undercover work, anything that other law enforcement agents do. So I too want to thank the law enforcement people who are here. The long nights or days alone with a computer screen, looking at a spreadsheet, looking at timesheets, looking at records, writing subpoenas, doing search warrants, doing shoe leather work. They are one of the real heroes of today. Now, on the atmospheric side, you've heard a lot of details, but let's step back for just a minute and think for a minute about where we are. This is, after all, Philadelphia. A few blocks from here, one of the great documents of Western civilization was written 250 years ago. It is the theme that we all remember when we care about what's going on in our communities and our government: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But there's another important value that came from another organization 170 years ago, the CHOP, founded by a doctor, Anglican parishioner, who said, "I don't like what's going on with my neighbors. The mortality rate is too high." So he starts a hospital. Now think about some of the hospitals in our region. Mercy Medical, the name of that hospital. Cedars-Sinai. And don't ever forget that a group of nuns sitting over a wooden table and a bowl of soup came up with the idea for the Mayo Clinic. So these are core values that come from the idea of treating your neighbor the way you would like to be treated. So these two values, Declaration of Independence and treating neighbors with love, means that the infirm, the elderly, the disabled, widows and orphans are cared for. The least of these are not left out. Consider with me just for a second what it means that that's under attack. Who steals from these people? What kind of person steals from these people? not the people who care about the values of the Declaration or about caring for their neighbors. They care only about themselves. And they don't care, as the Attorney General very articulately said, they don't care about what's going on with the poor or the infirm or the disabled or the children or the widows or the orphans. But I know the people in this room do, and I know that's their values. I just want to thank the rest of the partners here. It's always difficult to speak nearly last when you have all the details, but this is a civilizational challenge. People are demoralized in our country about health care. People are working to improve it, but until we get control of this fraud, if you think back 2 or 3 years what the Government Accounting Office said, take a look around the room. 1 in 5 of us was working all year to pay our taxes, and they were being stolen. 1 in 5. That's how much the GAO estimates we're losing in these programs to fraud. And this is a group that says not on their watch. I like no moss. And I also like Dr. Oz's quote, he didn't use it today, but he often uses it, that if we took the fraud out of Medicare and Medicaid alone, we'd extend those trust funds 5 years. That's caring for your neighbors. That's making sure life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness applies to everyone. So thanks again to the shoe leather, the late nights with the screen, the spreadsheets of the agents, and also the kind comments of the Attorney General. My office funds and certifies 50 Medicaid fraud control units around the nation. Pennsylvania's in the very upper echelon, and one of the ones we ask others to look at. We've got a handful of very non-productive ones we're working with very closely to get them up to speed. But I want to thank the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, which has some very hardworking people, but leadership matters. I thank the Attorney General for his leadership in that area. I also want to introduce you to Brad, my good friend, Scott Brady. His name is not Brad, Scott Brady, who we had at HHS and was stolen away from us by the President's Fraud Task Force.